I'm going to say this one more time. Germs are not the cause of disease, but the symptoms of cellular breakdown. And the causative factors, this is cause and effect, the causative factors today that we're dealing with worldwide is chemical and radiation poisoning. This could be an antidote. That's what I'm going to say. This could be an antidote to chemical and radiation poisoning.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Sean from SGT Report here. That was Dr. Robert Young. You're not going to want to miss this one. Dr. Young explains the real danger of 5G and radiation poisoning, masquerading as a plandemic and coming to a town near you. And friends, there is a cure for the graphene oxide that now resides in all of us. Before we start, just a quick word about our sponsor. Heart disease, blood clots, strokes, and kidney failure. This can all be found on the back of an ibuprofen bottle. And to top it off, ibuprofen doesn't even get to the main cause of your pain and swelling problems, which is inflammation. But right now, you can go to nativepath.online/SGT to see your special offer for being an SGT Report listener. And I have to tell you, I take these supplements for my arthritis, and they really help. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. We're talking about omega-3 fatty acids, but not just any form of omegas. These omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. The omega-3 content from krill oil has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reducing inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. In fact, it can outperform ibuprofen, Advil, and Tylenol, and it doesn't have the dangerous side effects either. For a limited time, you can get Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for as low as $23 a bottle. Just go to nativepath.online/SGT right now to get your special offer for being a part of the SGT Report audience. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very much for tuning in. It's Sean from SGT Report with a absolute blockbuster show for you guys. We're going to break some huge news here today, understanding the real root causes of disease and graphene oxide. Did you know it's now in the blood of the vaxxed and the unvaxxed alike because people are being transfected? That's what Dr. Robert Young just told me before I hit record. He is an expert in live blood analysis. He can tell us all about the biofield. He's, by the way, a former professional tennis player. He wrote the book, The pH Miracle, so he's an author as well. Doc, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. It was a surprise. I'm a little ill-prepared because I thought Carolyn Mansfield was going to join us. She turned the reins over to you to discuss the war against humanity. And also joining us is Matthew HAZEN. He's the founder of that fabulous product that Christopher James just told us about a couple of days ago, MasterPeace. It is removing the graphene oxide very successfully from the bodies of everybody who tries this product. We'll talk about that. Matthew, welcome.
Good day. How are you doing today, Sean?
Yeah, good to meet you. Glad to have you on. Thanks for joining us. All right. So evidence is emerging, guys, that graphene oxide is now in the blood of both the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. So can it be removed at the cellular level? Well, top professionals and doctors around the world can't believe what they're seeing in cellular toxin clinical studies. Robert, humanity is under absolute attack. You wrote a book about how people can be healthy, The pH Miracle. And mainstream officialdom wanted nothing to do with that, because they're all about getting us on their Western medical pills, right? Pop a pill for whatever ails you, Rockefeller medicine. And your book, The pH Miracle, is very much a different train of thought, isn't it, sir?
Well, it's an environmental approach. If the fish is sick, what do? Do you treat the fish or change the water? And if you think about that question, you wouldn't vaccinate the fish. You wouldn't pop a pill. You would actually change the environment which that fish swims in. Well, guess what? You have 72 trillion fish or cells, body cells, that are literally covered with interstitial fluid, and that's the body ocean. It's the largest organ of the human body, and you have to manage and maintain that. If you don't, this is what causes cellular breakdown. This is what causes dis-ease. Dis-ease is a symptom of a polluted internal environment. So if you look at this at a contextual view, rather than from the germ theory to the terrain theory. So this debate is now starting to attract a lot of attention because people are thinking, look, hey, I get this. we're only as healthy as our internal environment. And our environment is a body of water. And if we manage and maintain that, then that will increase the quality and quantity of our life by managing that environment. So that's the key to the terrain theory.
We've talked about the terrain theory, and more and more people are waking up to the idea that everything is a lie, especially a bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. And the fact that Pfizer is still pushing this thing in advertising on a daily basis with people like Martha Stewart, that Kansas City Chiefs tight end, Travis Kelce, and musician John Legend. By the way, did you guys know that Kelce got paid $20 million to appear in that Pfizer spot where he's pushing the 2-for-1, run out and get your flu shot and ask him for the COVID booster? You can get them both at the same time, Doc. 20 million bucks.
Well, what you're getting is you're getting transvected with cytotoxic, genotoxic, and magnetic material that is so small, it is activated by 4G, 5G, and when that's activated, it self-assembles into antennas, into clusters, and these clusters are harmful to our bodies because they attract radiation to it. So that cell phone, kind of like that, runs off 2.4 gigahertz at 4G plus and 5G. Well, that same radiation can affect the health or the environment of the body and affect the cells. And when that happens, cells membranes begin to deteriorate. As they deteriorate, they start crowning. That's called the corona effect. And if you continue to deteriorate the membrane, it starts spiking. That's where spike protein comes from. It comes from the cell membranes of your own body cells that is initiated with this technology and amplified with electromagnetic frequencies from your cell phone, from antennas and cell towers, and even satellite.
Yeah, and stay tuned, guys, because we're going to talk more about 5G, the Disease X plan. This is so nefarious, and I'm so pleased to have a truth teller like Dr. Robert Young on, who, by the way, told me before I hit record that he's never turned his back on truth. And man, do we need more doctors like that. Matthew, can you explain how you two gentlemen know each other? Just help us understand the relationship here.
We were in the midst of doing a first and only of its kind study using MasterPeace as the main part of the protocol. And we had taken the blood of 3 test subjects and tested it for graphene and polyethylene glycol, which is I believe the main component of hydrogel, and some other common forever chemicals. And we had got back the results from the 3 test subjects, and they were very high and very alarming. At the time, Carolyn Mansfield was getting these tests done. She was wishing to remain anonymous, and she knew of Dr. Robert Young's work with live blood analysis, microscopy. He's, from what I believe, he's the only, he has an electron microscope, which goes down to 25,000 magnifications with, brightness coming from the side of it. And so his research is legendary. And she told me, she said, when it comes to this type of work and analysis, this guy's the GOAT. This guy is the Don of it all. And so she said, you have to get a hold of him and tell him that we're about to get these results, because he'll know what to do with it. And right. So that's really how my relationship with him began. MasterPeace is simply 2 ingredients. We had talked about our bodies being 99% water molecules. And what's funny is if you look into the oceans, we took an approach of looking into nature. We wanted to find something that was completely natural. And we said, well, if our bodies are 99% water molecules, where's the cleanest water in the world? If the whole world is contaminated with this microscopic pollution, this cesspool of unnatural things, where is the world being able to deal with this? And what we found was that zeolite beds. So if you take lava from an old active volcano and that lava goes into the ocean water, there's the most amazing, beautiful chemical process that happens, and it turns it into zeolite. And so we started putting it together from there. And really, MasterPeace, I would call it the most beautiful labor of love that's ever been put together for the sake of mankind.
All right. Well, let me just show the product so people understand what we're talking about here. Dr. Young, could you just explain to us, this product isn't just zeolite, right? It's more than just zeolite. Is that correct?
Well, yes. It's a nanocolloidal solution of marine plasma at a pH of 8.4 to 8.8. which is very similar to what the ocean is. So it's a salty solution, a marine plasma, and then it's been impregnated with nano elements of zeolite. And the zeolite is a hexagonal structure, very much like graphene oxide. The unique difference, though, is its zeta potential or its surface charge. And the surface charge of graphene oxide is positive, and the surface charge of zeolite is negative. So it's a reduced form of zeolite that's in this marine plasma that is in the nano size that couples, literally couples through electromagnetic attraction, right? Negative and positives attract magnet size. If you have the positive and negative side of a magnet, they'll attract and they'll lock together. So what the zeolite does, this marine plasma, in combination with this reduced form of zeolite, it couples with the graphene, demagnetizing it so the body can then eliminate it. And out of those 3 test subjects, one of them was unvaccinated and 2 of them were vaccinated. They all contained the graphene oxide. They also contained the polyethylene glycol, or the PEG, the hydrogel component. And so this is being exposed. And the reason for that is it's being transfected not only through inoculation, but also through aerosol. It's actually being chemtrailed. Not only the graphene oxide, but silica dioxide, which both carry a positive surface charge, of which can be reduced by this particular combination of marine plasma with graphene, with the zeolite, reduced zeolite construct. So that's why it's so effective. And when I saw the results, which was done by a third-party lab, I was not surprised, but I was excited for the fact, and of course, in several articles now that we've published showing this construct, comparing it to the graphene oxide, showing it against the reduced zeolite, it works on the same nano level. So it's a beautiful picture and it's a beautiful result, and I'm happy to share this information with everyone because I see it as a solution to the pollutions that we're being exposed to.
Yeah, all of us are being bathed in this anti-human agenda. I'm talking about 5G. I'm talking about the toxins in the food. I'm talking about glyphosate in the water. I'm talking about fluoride in the water. I'm talking about chemtrails, which you mentioned. We're being transfected. And, the way I open the show is by saying that evidence is now showing that graphene oxide is in the blood of both the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. So this cellular toxin clinical study is extremely important for everybody to pay attention to because it is showing a massive decrease in graphene oxide in the blood of these subjects after just 35 days of taking MasterPeace, 5 drops twice daily for 35 days. Help us understand the science here. How much graphene oxide can be removed from our blood using this product?
Well, we can provide the analytics. We did not just test graphene oxide, but in one of the clients who had been vaccinated, a 60-year-old female who had been vaxxed twice with AstraZeneca vaccine, it reduced her graphene oxide by over 90%. And so that's where it's coming from. That's coming from subject number 1. Subject number 3 had a reduction of over 50%. But it wasn't just in graphene oxide. It was also in aluminum oxide. It was also in a very surprising compound, which is actually regulated by international law as a wartime bioweapon, and that's vilinidine dichloride, which when burnt creates phosgene. And I was shocked when I saw in all 3 of these subjects, I saw, high levels, or even in some cases, a lower level of phosgene. Well, there's only one acceptable level of phosgene or even graphene oxide, and that is 0, non-detectable. This is not the case. Well, phosgene is when you burn vilinidine dichloride, and vilinidine dichloride is a chemical to clean the rods of a nuclear cell, the rods within that. And so that waste product is supposed to be stored. It's not supposed to be transferred. But we all know what happened in East Palestine. You know, tens of thousands of this was dumped and then burned, creating a compound, now phosgene. So the question came up in my mind, what is phosgene showing up in the blood, in the UK? So if this is an international problem, this is of great concern. So we tested anywhere from 8 to 12 heavy metals, nanotechnology metals, and for forever chemicals like polyethylene glycol. And so that's all we're seeing, reductions across the board by doing, not changing your diet, even though I recommend that, not through hyperperfusing alkalinity, but by just taking 5 drops twice a day for 35 days. And we're going to extend in a new study that we're doing, we're going to extend that to up to 90 days using a larger group, and it's going to be blinded, double blinded. So some will get a placebo, some will get the actual product. We want to prove this out even further because every human soul on this planet needs this product to protect themselves from electromagnetic poisoning, radiation poisoning, and chemical poisoning. It's a godsend. So I'm grateful that I met Matt and he introduced me to this. I was able to look at it from not only the analytical, but also, look at it from the microscopy point of view to literally see what's going on. And this could be an antidote. That's what I'm going to say. This could be an antidote to chemical and radiation poisoning.
The other thing that should be noted too, because of course I started approaching this interview just thinking about graphene oxide alone, but so many of us have heavy metals in our bodies, right? Mercury from fillings and from shots, from childhood vaccines. And this product will help bind those heavy metals and help get those out of our bodies too, correct?
You're absolutely right, because we're dealing with magnetics here. We're dealing with polarities of opposite polarity between positive and negative. The zeta potential of this zeolite attracts to its opposite polarity, which is positive, the surface charge, which is positive. Doesn't interact with the red blood cells. That surface charge is negative. It interacts with the poisons that are in there. So yes, it will chelate out, or bind. Chelation means to bind. It will bind to polyethylene glycol. That's what the initial studies show. It will bind with aluminum oxide. It will bind with titanium oxide and dioxide. It'll bind with the graphene oxide. These are just a few of the things that we're finding, and mercury. But there's also a chemical that we're going to be adding, which is found in our soils and now found in our foods, and that's glyphosate. And we know that that can be harmful to humans and can cause an array of different symptomologies. So I would like to say we're not suffering from a disease, but a state of imbalance that's being brought on through the introduction of compounds of chemicals and the interaction of those chemicals or metals with electromagnetic frequencies that literally amplify the problem, that can cause a whole host of symptomologies the current medical science is labeling as disease associated with the virus. But there is no virus. There is no germ causation of this. Germs are the symptoms of cellular breakdown and not the cause of any specific disease. I'm going to say this one more time. Germs are not the cause of disease, but the symptoms of cellular breakdown, and the causative factors. This is cause and effect. The causative factors today that we're dealing with worldwide is chemical and radiation poisoning. And so I'm always looking for ways to help not only myself, but my children and grandchildren, because I want a world that we really think, that we need and want, and that's an environment that is not environmentally polluted. Our waters, our food. I mean, we just tested these paper straws that people are drinking out of. It's loaded with these chemicals. It's loaded with these metals. And so this is just another way of transfection. The same thing was with the PCR testing. That was another way of transfecting and introducing these compounds into our body fluids. So, so here again, you're going to have to trust your farmer more than you trust your doctor. And in doing that, you need to know who your farmer is, or you need to become a farmer. You need to grow what you eat and eat what you grow. This is a really important time. We really need to take an accounting, and listen to the words very carefully, because what we're being exposed to is unsurvivable,
Mm-hmm.
period. And we need to stand up for truth and right, the sovereign rights of each human being, and bring and put an end to this tyranny, and an end to this scientism, and start introducing to people the true science, and it's going to be awakening for most people to hear some of these. But I've been writing about it. I've been publishing about this for now over 40 years, and I've interacted at all the different levels as it relates to this. And I really thought that those in power had our, backs covered, that they had good intention. I didn't find that for myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people have experienced this. So, as a people with one voice, standing up for truth, it is important now, because if we don't, civilization is going to look a whole lot different by 2030.
Mm-hmm.
This has already been stated.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I chuckled just briefly when you mentioned we should depend more on our farmers and trust our farmers more than our doctors, because you're so absolutely right. But that's probably the reason the criminal government of Pennsylvania is now targeting Amos Miller, the Amish farmer, who supplies beautiful organic food and always has, and has never had a single complaint lodged against him. And they're shutting him down. They want to put him out of business. They're targeting Amish farmers. And that illustration, that picture you have behind you, that reminds me of the world God intended. And that's what you want. That's what I want. That's what Matthew wants. And these demon creatures, these enemies of humanity, are trying very hard to destroy exactly what you're showing behind you. They want to destroy all of it. But first us. They want to destroy us first. They want it all for themselves.
We need to return to the garden. We need to eat and think and act like Adam and Eve, or at least the concept of Adam and Eve, that Garden of Eden, that beautiful, green, lush environment. That can be ours. I mean, the contrast of that is looking at the Denali forest and the acid rain that's literally destroyed that. This is brought on by man, not by nature. This is by man, and it's destroying animal life. It's destroying plant life. It's destroying insects. This has all been studied. We know that we have less bees out there pollinating. It's up to 80% reduction, and the bottom line is if we don't take care of this now, what kind of world will we be living in? And it's a huge problem that can be solved by turning back to nature, back to God, back to faith. Faith being the first attribute in thinking healthy, and move away from fear, which is the false evidence appearing real. That's the contrast that we're dealing with. And the contrast is becoming clearer and clearer what side that people will choose. And for me and my family, we choose faith. We choose nature. And we've done this throughout our lives, and we've benefited from that. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity on your platform to be able to share this knowledge and to make it available at no charge. All you have to do is go to drrobertyoung.com, provide me your email, and I will send you 60 articles, and my research, even my Harvard lectures are free. I want this available to every human being around the world so they can know about the science, so they can know about this beautiful product, this beautiful product that MasterPeace. And that peace is not Piece, it's Peace. And that peace is inner peace for yourself and your family. And so I want them to know about that. And there's other things that people can do. And I want to give that as a gift to all humanity around the world.
Well, God bless you. And let me just say, for the audience who's paying attention to every word coming out of your mouth, when you talk about returning to nature and being at peace with the world, Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, I've always said that the world could be in Eden if it weren't ruled by these malevolent dictators, because that's what they are. They're malevolent and they hate humanity. And let's just talk about some of the things that they put into play that a godly person would never invent. Okay, because it's not the common man who introduced glyphosate to the environment and put it in the food. It's not the common man who invented 5G or the mRNA vaccine, right? The bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. It's not the common man who put fluoride in the water. This is all an anti-human agenda. Matthew, have you ever in your life, see, I think we're on a shift. We're at the shift in human consciousness where people are waking up. They're seeing what previously was unseen. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, are you shocked, though, to learn along with me and Dr. Robert Young just over the past 2 decades of all the nefarious stuff that they put into play, that they've invented to harm us? Did I even mention 5G? Because that's all part of this, by the way. Matthew, the entire agenda is anti-human, isn't it?
It completely is as unnatural as it gets. And, we had to look at the ways they were making this whole thing connect up. And we knew that the stuck trapped heavy metals, graphene oxide, forever chemicals that are unnatural, that disrupt every part of the functioning of the body. Now we obviously know that it's leads to us being controlled and connected, just like your phone. We're electromagnetic beings. Our biofield, Dr. Robert Young has been giving information on the electromagnetic biofield since the early 90s. So these are how it's being done. And it's a world out there where this showed up at the perfect time. And it was it grew from the very greatest intentions. We don't just have Dr. Robert Young on board. We have other people who literally watched their entire life's work be used to harm humanity. A gentleman that was involved with peptide wrapping, had patents on it, owned his own nano lab, chief scientific officer for Kansas State University. To this day, he has used all of his equipment. He had 3 labs. He's consolidated them down to 2. He's done all of this work to, using nanosite and DLS and spectrometry of all types and everything. He threw everything he had learned with his decades of work, and I'm speaking about Michael Coe, into helping to make this formula what it is, to offset what is going on in the world. And for him to not even charge us because he believes in this mission, I don't even know what that work would have cost. He refuses to take money. He just wants to help. He says, Matt, get this out. Just get this out. That'll make me happy. And so, we have a whole herd. Carolyn Mansfield, she's one of the most beautiful people on earth, beautiful soul, a true humanitarian. She came to me and she says, Matt, I found a place that can test for graphene. We got to talk about how we can get this done. And we worked on it covertly for many months. So, there's things that should not be in the human body that they're using many years of technology and R&D to, it's very evil. It's very nefarious. And this is, this neutralizes it. This makes it inert. And zeolite is indigestible to the body. So once it has bound to these unnatural things, it's obviously, and the test results from the 3 test subjects show it's getting it out. It's not just neutralizing it and leaving it in there. It's magnetically finding and binding and escorting it out. And so, and real quick, Sean, just so that anybody knows, to order MasterPeace, you can't just go to the website. Wherever you find out about it, that person should always have a link, should always provide a link for the people so that they can even purchase. And so, there is absolutely no type of catch, no obligations. There's no membership fees, recurring this or this. This is not an MLM. Okay, this is an e-commerce direct sales. This was a complete project for humanity that had nothing in the world to do with money. And that's why it was made so that it's highly affordable for everybody. A bottle lasts you 2 months if you do the regular dosing, the same exact dosing that we got with the test results. If you do that, which is 5 drops twice a day, one bottle is going to last you 2 months, which is less than $1 a day. Okay. There's no sales tax because we're not tax keepers. I'm not anybody's tax boy. So, we charge a one-time flat rate shipping fee. So anybody that goes to purchase this for their family and them, I suggest buying more than one bottle so that you can soak up the one-time fee on that. And it's you get one email a month. And if you don't want that email saying when we're going to come on and do our town hall meeting, you can just ask to be taken down from the email list. And it's a really great thing what we're doing here. It's exponentially exploding, and we're getting over 100 testimonials every other day now of people that we had about 300 and some testimonials last week come in, people just experiencing and making claims that they are having much more vivid and lucid dreams that they've had in decades. Their mood, their emotional well-being is gone up. We've done a lot of muscle testing and kinesiology testing on MasterPeace. What we found, world-class kinesiology experts, by the way, and what we found is that the person, in terms of the Dawkins level of consciousness chart, on average, the average person that's used MasterPeace shows that it's raising their consciousness by about 20 points, which is astronomically high on the David Hawkins chart. To think about that,
they contributing to the Great Awakening. I love that. Yes.
It was a product. The reason why the company that stewards the product is called Human Consciousness Support is because that's what it does. Okay. That's what, it's a MasterPeace. It's actually tests out at 605 on the David Hawkins chart as a food and, on behalf of the highest good for all of humanity. And that's been confirmed by many, 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 many people. We've done many shows where everybody's getting the same results. And that means it's in the peace zone, and it's the MasterPeace. So we didn't know that going into it. But yeah, it's a beautiful story what we're seeing for people right now.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. I want to ask you about 5G, Dr. Young. But before I do, just to paint the picture of how upside down and absolutely criminal our government has become in the world. I mean, it's a sea of corruption. It's an international mafia. That's how they're behaving. Let me just show you this. John Kerry just stepped down as the climate czar. And guess who's taking his place? Yes, the trafficker in chief. Joe Biden is promoting John Podesta to be his top U.S. climate diplomat, replacing John Kerry. The same John Podesta, who Breitbart tweeted about in 2011, calling him a progressive guru. And I believe, I'm going off memory, the tweet was, how prog guru John Podesta isn't a household name as a child sex slave op, cover-upper defending unspeakable dregs escapes me. That's the same John Podesta who will now run around the world telling us that we all should pay carbon taxes to bankers. That will cure climate change if you believe in climate change at all, which I don't. Doc, I'll let you comment on that. And then I've got to ask you about 5G, because I guess, that's why Tom Wheeler was the head of the FCC. He's a little bit like John Podesta. They didn't do any safety studies whatsoever regarding 5G. But Tom Wheeler was foaming at the mouth to fast track it, because it's just too damned important. Tens of billions are on the line. So that's what they did. They fast-tracked 5G. So I guess I jumped right over Podesta and I moved right on to 5G, but feel free to comment on any of that. 5G is very much a part of this.
Well, yeah, 5G is speaking specifically of fifth generation. And the fifth generation, of course, uses a higher frequency, but as far as its bandwidth, it's shorter. So you have to have antennas every 150 to 200 meters. Yep. And so this really creates a serious problem. Even though you're getting higher speeds, you end up with more cell towers and more antennas. So what's being really used around the world is 4G plus.
Hey friends, apologies for the quick break and a word from our sponsor. Have you guys taken a good look at the banks lately? On the surface, everything looks fine, but there's a whole lot more going on underneath. It's like looking under the hood of a car and finding nothing but a mess of broken wires and parts. Debt is hitting a record high. It's really scary when you stop and think about it. Why risk your money for a tiny return when things are so shaky? This is where Noble Gold Investments can help. The money printing is never going to end, and Noble Gold Investments is like a friend who knows about keeping money safe. And they suggest gold and silver. Now, keep in mind, there's always a risk of investment, and there's no guarantee. But they do have a sweet deal, a free 1/4 ounce gold standard gold coin this month if you qualify. If you're curious, just give them a call right now at 877-646-5347 and tell them SGT Report sent you. It's just a chat, no pressure, but they'll help you figure out if gold and silver are right for you. Just visit noblegoldinvestments.com and take the first step toward a safer financial future. 877-646-5347.
You know, you end up with more cell towers and more antennas. So what's being really used around the world is 4G plus, and 4G and 4G trust. And INRI, which is a nonprofit organization out of Norway that I'm part of, we've been testing excess mortality around the world in the last since all the way back to 2006, going up to 2012. And then, of course, 2019 through 2024. And what we're seeing is just a huge excess mortality in every country that is amplified this technology, not just in frequency, but also in wattage. And so when we look at Switzerland has basically zero excess mortality. And of course, they're using 4G plus and very little 5G. 5G is mainly found in the larger cities in the US and Canada, but the main culprit here is 4G. It's operating at approximately 2.4 gigahertz, which is the same frequency that your microwave oven operates on. So being exposed to microwave radiation is a huge problem. It's pulsating, it's hitting you. It is connecting not only to your phone, but if you've been graphinated, it's connecting to you personally. So a lot of the symptoms you're feeling, you know, like the dry cough or the low energy, the enervation, and all this clotting that's going on is activated by either high altitude, which of course you probably don't live at 10,000 feet, or it's being activated by electromagnetic frequencies. So in 1998, I did a double-blinded study where we actually, in cooperation with a group in London, Airtime, BBC, we were able to take those who were operating in the Edda Bay, being exposed to radiation frequencies. And at that time, of course, we're talking about second generation. But even at these lower frequencies that are pulsating, we saw extreme damage after 8 hours exposed to that radiation in the Edda Bay, extreme radiation damage to the cellular membranes of the red blood cells, which led to the corona effect, which led to spiking of the protein. We published this in a peer-reviewed journal in combination with other evidence that we had found with a scientist by the name of Dr. Beverly Rubik, who was at that time a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. So this was published in 2001, 2002. I'm happy to provide information on this, but we're talking now several generations now going forward to 2024 that are insurvivable. So we're talking about megahertz jumping up to gigahertz. Now, when we're talking about 5G has the capability of going up to a frequency of 60 gigahertz. Mm-hmm. And this frequency is unsurvivable. In fact, there is a quantum link where the frequency of 4 and 5G, when it's jacked up on this amplification to 40, it's I believe 43.1, it actually, the frequency quantum links and you link into that. But we're seeing damage to the cells in the megahertz. But once it combines with the graphene oxide, it amplifies it. So if you're at 2.4 gigahertz on 4 and 5G, and then you've been graphinated, that can also amplify up to terahertz. So now you're into frequencies that go far beyond sustainable, and this is causing injuries to the cells, leading to what? pathological blood coagulation. This was the cause of all the respiratory problems because red blood cells have to go into the pulmonary system single file. Well, with increased clotting, that leads to hypercapnia, the body meaning it's building up in carbon dioxide, which can't be removed through the lungs. So as that builds up, more pathological blood coagulation, which causes hypoxia, which is loss of oxygen, and people start dry coughing. And from that, of course, it leads to death. So this whole pathology of this technology can only lead to increased injury and disease that can lead to death. And I don't mean to scare anybody. I just want you to be aware of the fact that you need to start social distancing from your cell phone. You need to start social distancing from your smart TVs, your smart meters that are out there. They're putting off frequencies, which if you get a Gauss meter and an electrical meter, in fact, I think I have one here. They're called trifield meters. You can test your exposure to all these apparatuses, and you'll find that they far exceed the U.S. Department Environmental Protection Agency's limited or maximum exposure, which here again in milligauss is less than 3 milligauss. You're going to see, like if you're driving one of those Tesla cars, you're going to see the milligausses up in the 20s and 30s. And you need, before you buy a car, you need to test it because of all the technology for all this EMF that's coming off your car. And of course, your car is a smart car, so it's connected to the Internet of Things or the cloud. And if you're graphinated, that all affects you. So your car can be making you sick, your phone can be making you sick, your smart meter, your smart refrigerator, all this smart technology isn't smart at all. So, it's dumbing you down and it's making you feel ways that are not really who you are. So you feel different. And the reason you're feeling different is because you're living in a soup of electromagnetic fields, and the magnetic field is more powerful than the electrical field. Electrical field will bounce off you, but the magnetic field goes through you, and the only thing that you can defend yourself is to create an opposite, what I call sympathetic resonant link or technology, that like a tuning fork that locks your frequency in, that when you're getting hit with the 5G or 4G, either in megahertz or gigahertz, that it will not affect or harm your cells. That sympathetic resonant technology creates what I call a quantum link, and it protects you from this harmful radiation. Is it a fail-safe for you? I don't know. I know that I've had it on now for over 24 years. I feel it's helped me, and I know that it's helped a lot of other people. Bottom line is there are ways to protect yourself, but you need to be aware of the problem, and there are solutions to protect yourself from these magnetic fields. But now that you're hopefully aware of it, if you need to read more, there's so much information, and I've written about this since 1998, warning people of electromagnetic pollution that is affecting our lives. And now with the technology that has advanced, with the higher frequencies, with the higher wattages, with the shorter bandwidths, which means more antennas. I don't even know if you know this, but the new phones now have 3 antennas in them. Some up to 5 antennas. And of course, this is just tracking more radiation to your phone. If you're holding that phone, you're being exposed to it. So you need to find new friends, and your friend isn't that phone. It's actually a bioweapon that's receiving frequencies that can be harmful to your well-being. But you can protect yourself. That's what I'm saying. And one way to reduce the radiation exposure is by maintaining the alkaline design of your body fluids, by taking salts, by incorporating salts, not just the marine salts, but things like sodium and potassium bicarbonate will actually manage and maintain your alkaline design, which for the fluids that surround cells should be at 8.4. And you can test for it. You can do this on your own. All you do is you take these simple test strips, and I'm not going to do a demonstration, but you then pee on this, you know, and there's a color scale that should show you what your pH of your interstitial fluid, because urine is a product of the fluids that surround the cell. And the ideal pH of the interstitial fluids, which is 80% of your extracellular fluids, vascular is 20, that fluid is identical to the ocean. That's what attracted me to this MasterPeace, because that's what they created. They created an environment that's identical to the human environment, and specifically the largest organ of the body, which is the interstitium that holds this interstitial fluid. But if you test, you will find that your pH is in the 5s or in the 6s if you're dealing with any health challenge. If you'll start getting this technology out of you by hyperperfusing alkalinity, improving your circulation, this is all outlined in chapter 5 and 11 in the pH Miracle book. It's revised and update. The pub dates on that is 2010. So there are solutions that now are known to help you improve the quality and quantity of your life. And we just need to be aware of why we're feeling the way that we're feeling. And here again, it's not from some phantom germ or some virus or E. coli or anthrax or Ebola, or these are symptoms of cellular breakdown. These are cell fragments. If you want to support true immunity, you have to do that with a contextual approach, and that is managing and maintaining the alkaline design of your body fluids, because you are a body of fluids, and you test the interstitial fluid, keeping that at 8.4 to 9. This, of course, is a moderate pH, but this is where cells thrive. This is where they can withstand some of these onslaughts of chemical and radiation that we're now exposed to. So that's kind of a summary of thoughts, but more detailed work is there. I'm happy to send it to you free of charge. Just go to drrobertyoung.com. Give me your email address. I'll send you 60 articles, including my Harvard lecture, and for free, because this information was given to me, and I want to give it to the world.
Fabulous. 8.4 to 9.0. That's the ideal pH level when you do that P test, correct?
That's correct.
If you're in the 5, you're in trouble. Okay.
If you're in the 5s, this is where you're going to see more health challenges when it's in the low 6s and the 5s. Ideal is not 7.2 or 7.4. Ideal is 8.4 to 9. If you're dealing with any symptomology, you need to get it up to 9. And just an example of this that was done over 100 years ago. And those were the wise, thoughtful people that were challenged, which was caused one of the greatest so-called pandemics or epidemics was the Spanish flu epidemic. And that Spanish flu epidemic was caused by the increased amount of radio waves with compounds within inoculations. They treated it like this was a disease, but it was chemical and radiation poisoning again. And I'll send you the list of all the so-called epidemics and pandemics and what the real cause of that was. But if you will take this note, because what they did back then, those who survived this, who did not end up so-called catching this so-called problem, this so-called dis-ease, they took one scoop, which was 5 grams, a teaspoon approximately, of sodium bicarbonate. And at that time, it was Arm & Hammer sodium bicarbonate. They put it in a small glass of water, 3 to 4 ounces, and they drank that 3 to 4 times a day. Guess what? No symptoms, no so-called attack or infectious condition. And that's exactly what you do, because anytime the body produces a fever, The body's inducing that fever to remove acidic toxins out through the pores of the skin and out through urination. So when you start managing the alkaline design of your body fluids and you start taking these chelators like MasterPeace, PEACE, this is what brings peace and harmony and balance to your fluids. Could you imagine what would happen to the ocean if the pH went from 8.3 or 8.4 to 7.9? Everything would die.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what happens when the pH of your blood, which is a lower pH, drops from 7.36 to 6.9? You're dead. At 7.1, you're in a coma. The body manages that blood pH at a very narrow range from 7.365 to 7.4. So what happens when you take that bicarbonate, when you take that MasterPeace, when you take eat alkalizing foods, it pushes that excess alkalinity into the interstitial fluid and protects the cell membranes. So no more spike protein, no more corona effect, no more disease, no more the body reacting to this pollution because now it's getting moved out. So no more fever, no more flu-like symptoms. You see, this is the way the body corrects its environment. And once we understand this new biology, this new way of living and eating, and we incorporate these wonderful products that are available to you to help you do this, you can take back the sovereign rights to your human body. And that will protect your biofield, because it's not that the human body has a biofield, which can be measured, it's 7.8 hertz. So you can imagine all these other caustic man-made frequencies. It can manage that. And because the body does not have a biofield, the biofield, this energy field, has a body. And when we protect the environment, the internal environment, and also our external environment, this is when we can enjoy life. This is when we can improve the quality and quantity of life. So no more cancer, no more diabetes, no more heart disease. Why? Because these are all conditions of a perverted way of living, eating, and thinking. That needs to change. The awakening is coming. People are realizing that they can take back their health and take control of that. Once again, you need to trust nature. If you put your trust and faith into nature, this is how you're going to regain your health, energy, and vitality.
Well, with an eye on the clock, I want to be respectful of the time. We're approaching the top of the hour, so I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I do want to ask one very important final question, with the note that Wuhan was a 5G pilot city. So when we saw all the videos of people dropping over dead at the outbreak of what we were told was a pandemic, COVID-19, which is actually, show me your papers, please. That's the whole purpose for the disease called COVID-19. Wuhan was a 5G pilot city, which leads me to something Carolyn wrote in an email, the Disease X plan. Don't want to fearmonger, but they're fearmongering at the World Economic Forum, at the World Health Organization, at the United Nations. They're talking about Disease X. There is a bioweapons lab in the UK working on a vaccine, we're told, for Disease X. So you can tell me, being the doctor, how you make a vaccine for something that hasn't emerged yet. But I guess that's a story for a different day, because these people are anti-human. They want to reduce the world's population by 90%. So here's what Carolyn wrote. Launch of Disease X by increasing frequencies 10 times from 2.5 gigahertz to 26 gigahertz with a fertile ground of massive graphene ferric oxide in the target population. I don't even know what that means.
That's actually my quote. Yeah.
That's your quote? Okay, what does that
mean
to you? Tell us what that means. Is 5G, they're going to use 5G and tell us it's Disease X.
Well, that's why everybody needed to be inoculated or transfected. They needed this technology in bodies to amplify that from 2.4 gigahertz and up. So, they'll provide the frequency, and what that does is it causes self-assembly of the graphene to start organizing itself into antennas and into biochips and into graphene clusters, and these graphene iron clusters attract radiation, and that radiation affects the context or the environment that leads to what? The corona effect, the spike protein effect. And what happens is spike protein, the body crystallizes that, and that can slice and dice you. But it destroys the endothelium, protective lining of our blood vessels, and that activates the cascade of pathological blood coagulation, factor 7, that goes to what is called fibrin monomers that cross-link, and what you end up with is not just micro clots, but macro clots that are causing oxygen deprivation. So this can accelerate up by increasing the bandwidth, by increasing the wattage, by increasing the frequency, but you have to be graphinated. And that's why transvection, that's why we find it in paper straws, that's why we find it in water, we find it in food, we find it in the air, we find it pretty much in everything, even in our hygiene products. And this is why we're seeing this technology in everyone. And I've written about this. I've spoken about this now for close to 35 years. This is not a new subject to me. So I saw this coming. I warned people in 1998. We published in 2001. I warned them again in 2019 what was coming down. And as a scientist, was the first to publish a peer-reviewed paper on the graphination and how it was getting into the bodies. And that paper, I'm going to give that paper to you for free. And there's a second paper I'm going to give to you called the blood jerk reaction, so you can understand not only just why this is happening and how it's happening, but what you can do with it. And I've included also the link for some of these solutions that you need, like MasterPeace. So this is all very, very important stuff. But what happened in Wuhan was a huge experience to see how those who were graphinated, which they were inoculated before they actually flipped the switch on the 5G technology that caused people to lose their oxygen and just literally collapse. And so, they performed this experiment in other cities. It wasn't just in Wuhan, but that was the primary city. And by the way, they had erected over 10,000 cell towers to make that possible. They had created the matrix in order to expose that whole community. Didn't happen in Shanghai, didn't happen in Beijing. Some reason, this so-called virus was just really for the people in Wuhan. I mean, if you want to believe that story, go ahead. But that is a fairy tale. What really happened was chemical and radiation poisoning experiments that have been going on for the last 3.5 years. And if you want to learn more, I wrote 3 books with another co-author, T.B. Ballantyne Jr., truth versus, liberty versus freedom. In fact, hang on just 1 minute, okay?
Sure.
He's incredible.
Yeah,
he is incredible. That's
cool.
why I just love listening to him, because he's the GOAT. He's literally GOAT.
So,
he's done this.
So let me
show
you this. You see this book?
Yep.
See this book, Truth versus Deception, Liberty versus Tyranny, COVID-19 Fact versus Fiction. This is the history of the last 4 years. There's 2 books here. 2 books. Okay? And to top that off, Tom has written a book, which I was did the forward for it. Let Freedom Ring. Let Freedom Ring. There's 3 books here. And we wrote this, knowing that this information was so important that everyone can know. Now it's in print. Now it's available across the world. It's available in digital. It's available in audio. It's available in print. However you want to receive it, anywhere in the world. But it's important. So I highly recommend, that you get the pH Miracle so you understand the contextual environmental approach to restoring your body health. Okay, by nature, and then get these other books so you can learn what happens, and of course, uh, just so you have a history of what happened in the last 3.5 years. And so, uh, Let Freedom Ring is a very important book. Liberating the Captives, Bringing Down the Cabal. Those are the three books that I'd highly recommend that you check out. And They're available through phmiracleproducts.com, or they're available through amazon.com. And Here again, uh, just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share truth around the world, and grateful to you for allowing uh, both Matt and I to be on your program today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you guys. Yeah, I'm just thrilled. And I've been following your work for a long time, Doc. So I appreciate you coming on today. I want to show two websites before we part ways. Here's the first, MasterPeace. I'm going to leave the link below. If you guys want to get this Keystone Holistic Supplement to help rid yourself of this stuff, well, the link is below. And here's the other website, Robert Young, drrobertyoung.com. You were generous to offer all of these freebies for my audience. Can you tell people how they get those?
Yeah, as soon as you go on the website, drrobertyoung.com, there'll be an opportunity that'll come up, and there's no fees associated with this. You can put your name and your email address, and once we have this, within 24 hours, you will receive an email with 60 articles, and also interviews and lectures. The Harvard lecture is on there for no charge. And then if you go up to Scientific Posts, if you go up to Scientific and hit that there, there's close to 600 articles there. So when it comes up, you can see some of the things that are going, and the Medical Freedom Symposium that we're doing, Experience Healing in Light, Sound Frequencies, 5 cities excess mortality. You can actually see a picture of MasterPeace and the construct, the hexagonal construct. So you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Read that article. It's very important. Ebola was something that I talked about quite a bit, is now coming up in our conversations. So there's over 600 articles that you can access. All you do, if you have an interest, just put in search the word, and away you go. This is Dr. Mike Yeadon, who I didn't know until after the fake pandemic that biology was a lie, and he was quoting my research after he read uh, one of my articles that was published, called "A Second Thought About Viruses, Vaccines, and the HIV/AIDS Hypothesis." And this guy is a scientist, and so people can change their mind. Even Judy Mikovits, a good friend, uh, has been very, very supportive, and of course her relationship with Fauci and the crew there. She has quite a story, so I've been very supportive of her work, and then just supportive to what PH Miracle is doing at phmiracleproducts.com. I'm supportive of that work, and they're making some of the books available there, the PH Miracle book, and other things that can be very helpful that only complement MasterPeace. So it's a great opportunity for you if you really want to make a difference in your life in 2024. It should be education, not medication. It should be education, not vaccination. And that specifically comes from someone that I very care about very, very much, and her uh, delineation of what's going on and what people need to do. Hosea said, "My people perish because of ignorance." People need to be educated about this, and that's why I've expressed my gratitude for the opportunity to be able to show and share truth, because we've looked at this not only just on the micron level, but the millimicron, all the way down to the atom size. So we look at molecules, we look at atoms, and we've actually been able to see the construct of what works and what doesn't work, and all of it's backed by science, not scientism. But please consider this, to educate yourself, learn about how you can take care of your body, and how you can prevent sickness and disease rather than treating something. Because I don't know of a doctor in the system that is treating disease. They're treating symptomologies.
Mm-hmm.
They're treating symptomologies, and that's not the way to resolve. So cause and effect relationships. People would ask me, what is a pH miracle? A pH miracle is a natural phenomenon between the cause and effect relationship, which is not understood by current medical science because they've been indoctrinated with a germ theory, which is a symptom of cellular breakdown. It's not causative. Germs do not cause disease. Environments, polluted environments, cause disease. And so if you want to bring your body back to health, energy, and balance, you have to understand how to do that. And that's what I've been studying for the last 4 decades. And we have millions of people in over 158 countries that have applied these principles and have literally taken back their lives, regardless of what the name is. It does not matter, because whatever the disease is, you can improve the quality and quantity of your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let me just say one last thing as we part ways. There's a doctor who lives in our neighborhood that I used to be friendly with, but then the Washington Post did a hit piece on me, which he obviously read, and now he won't wave at me anymore when we pass in cars or he walks by with his dog. And that's a guy who I know firsthand based on the testimony from another neighbor who had a daughter who took the daughter to see this guy when the daughter was 11 or 12 years old. And this guy, this doctor who won't wave at me anymore, he was pushing the Gardasil shot on the little girl. And I know for a fact he was getting a spiff for every round of the Gardasil shot. All 3 rounds of the Merck Gardasil shot, that doctor was getting a spiff. Just like the doctors were getting payola. They were getting spiffs every time they vaccinated their patients. I don't even know who they were getting the money from. I used to have the chart in front of me. Was it the government? Was it the health system in which they worked? The hospitals got government
state, from the state government, from federal government, from the pharmaceutical companies. Yeah.
So pathetic.
They're called kickbacks. Yeah.
I call them bribes. And you're not on the take. And I'm just so glad that doctors like you are on the side of Team Humanity. Doctors like Tenpenny, doctors like James Thorpe, who lost his job for telling the truth to his pregnant patients about the potential dangers of the bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. And these people have lost their careers. They've been thrown under the bus by big pharma and big mainstream media. And because we live in a system, we live under total tyranny and fascism. This is a fascistic system. And for anybody who's still with us, imagine the scope of the conspiracy that has led us to where we are right now, that they won't talk about. They cover up all of it. It doesn't matter if Ed Dowd writes another 3 books about dying suddenly. The mainstream horror media will ignore all of it. And as we round out the conversation, I want to show one last thing because the hits keep coming. This is not a tragic story of an anti-vaxxer. It is a tragic story about someone who got the vaccine. Anti-vax Olympic champion dies from COVID at age 51 after finally agreeing to take the jab. It's so disgusting. Guys, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being on the side of Team Humanity. Dr. Robert Young, first you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you very much, man. All right, I'm going to leave the link to your website below. And of course, I will leave a link so folks can buy MasterPeace. And Matt, thank you for arranging this interview today. I know you didn't get a word in edgewise, but you did say before I hit record that you really wanted Dr. Robert Young to carry the football.
Yes,
you really wanted him.
Absolutely.
He's such a genius, but thanks for arranging this today, brother.
Yes. No, it's been amazing. Thank you so much, Sean, for having us here today.
All right. Well, thanks for creating MasterPeace. It seems like an idea whose time has come because, again, these people are aligned against us, and it is a grand conspiracy, from the cabal. I call them a global mafia, and Dr. Robert Young just referred to them as the cabal. And by the way, I was very happy to see that you have Archbishop Pagano on your site there, Doc, talking about this global coup d'etat, because that is what is being attempted by Klaus Schwab, the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations. It is a global coup d'etat, and we must resist. We must not comply. That is the most important thing I can convey to the audience. Guys, if you're still with us, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll remind you every single day for free, you can get the news, the real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda, and all of those mockingbird mainstream media lies at sgtreport.com. God bless you and yours, friends. Bye-bye.
Everything is a lie. I remember 5, 6 years ago, the Financial Times wanted to make the point that there's so much silver. They said it was a $5 trillion silver market. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And they were talking about the derivatives. How many derivatives are traded? I mean, over 500 billion derivative ounces are traded every year. And that's crazy.